There has been a groundswell of momentum for the UFO disclosure movement and the ending of the truth embargo in the first weeks of August in the wake of the historic UFO hearing in the House Oversight Committee in Congress. So while members of the House and the Senate are enjoying their August recess in their home districts away from DC, we have seen updates coming out of the White House, aerospace defense, a new mainstream media conference around UFOs and national security, new sources for upcoming video releases, both from commercial pilots and from military, international updates in Brazil and Peru, and a new docuseries coming to Netflix. So let's dive in. First, we have a new statement from the White House in reaction to the allegations of David Grush of a UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program given by John Kirby, who's the coordinator for strategic communications for the National Security Council out of the White House. Here's his interesting refusal to deny the allegations.
Such a program exists, and do you believe that the American people deserve to know if it does?
I have no information on that to provide for you today, one way or the other. I would just say what I said last week when I got asked about this. We obviously take the issue of unidentified aerial phenomenon seriously.
It's very curious that the White House is choosing to not categorically deny David Grush's allegations, especially given their recent posture related to the FBI and IRS whistleblowers that are also talking to Congress. But this is also happening at the exact same time that Lockheed Martin, because people are now asking them the question, are providing this blanket statement to any press inquiry about whether they've been involved in UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. Questions about UAPs are best addressed by the US government. Why would that be Lockheed's response if they've never had any involvement in this subject? Frankly, the responses coming out of the executive branch of the US government, as well as private aerospace, simply don't make any sense. And it seems like the mainstream media is finally awaking from its slumber, as we saw The Hill today, August 17th, host a roundtable, The Truth is Out There, UFOs and National Security, featuring professors, government officials, as well as pilots, to try to foster discussion around this topic outside of the classified setting of the U.S. government. First up is Democratic Representative Jared Moskowitz of Florida, who's taking a very different position than the White House on this issue and is willing to move past the current narrative of, yes, the military has these sightings in our training ranges, but we don't know what it is, to really pushing the buttons to say, we definitely know what it is, but we are just unwilling to address it.
Have we as a society, as a world, interacted with other intelligent life? And I think the American people deserve to know if that's true or not at the end of the day. And you know, whether there are foreign countries that have these UAPs, you know, that's also something the American people deserve to know. Look, we have satellites now that take pictures of every single solitary thing that happens at every single solitary moment now. You can't do anything these days without there being satellite imagery of it. And so clearly there's more that we know. The idea that there's 170 UAP incidents that we can't describe, I don't actually think that's true. I think we can describe them. I just think we're unwilling to.
These comments were also bolstered by Republican Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who also attended the event today, as she spoke to what Congress is going to do in terms of their actions to defund positions and programs that are unwilling to engage with Congress on this issue, and specifically referenced that they're going to go after the Elgin Air Force Base footage that Matt Gaetz spoke to during the UFO hearing. Here's what she had to say.
You floated the possibility of defunding individuals if transparency is not increased. I just want to read the exact quote. You said, quote, "If we continue to see this wall of silence where they're giving us the runaround, we reserve the right to actually defund positions." I just wanted to ask, who exactly are you talking about when you're talking about defunding, and how exactly would you go about that? Is something like the Holman Rule, or do you have something else in mind?
No, it 100% is the Holman Rule. That's kind of one of our toolkits that we have as Congress. Obviously, no, Congress has the power of the purse, so we can defund any federally appointed position if we see that they are stonewalling us and not acting in the vested interests of the American people. And again, that's not just Republicans saying this, is Democrats too that would support that. So as of right now, based on the responses that we received back, and really I think that there's a lot riding on whether or not we get the select committee, but even then, so when we are pursuing this, let's say we go to Eglin Air Force Base, they don't want to bring the information forward that they showed us, we know it's not classified and that we can bring it forward. That's in that instance where we would actually bring forward that legislation for the appropriations to defund those positions.
The Elgin Air Force Base footage referenced by Representative Luna was discussed during the hearing by Matt Gaetz. Here's how he described what the contents of that video were.
When we spoke with the flight crew, and when he showed us the photo that he'd taken, I asked why the video wasn't engaged, why we didn't have a FLIR system that worked. Here's what he said. They were out on a test mission that day over the Gulf of Mexico, and when you're on a test mission, you're supposed to have clear airspace. Not supposed to be anything that shows up. And they saw a sequence of 4 craft in a clear diamond formation for which there is a radar sequence that I alone have observed in the United States Congress. One of the pilots goes to check out that diamond formation and sees a large floating, what I can only describe as an orb. Again, like I said, not of any human capability that I'm aware of. And when he approached, he said that his radar went down. He said that his FLIR system malfunctioned and that he had to manually take this image from one of the lenses, and it was not automated in collection as you would typically see in a test mission.
The contrast between the White House and Congress as it pertains to the UFO issue today could not be more stark. But if you're not a big fan of the government, have no fear because the commercial pilots are here. Lieutenant Ryan Graves, who was one of the 3 whistleblowers who testified at the UFO hearing in front of the House Oversight Committee at the end of July, also was a part of the UFOs and National Security Conference today. And after his interview, he posted this tweet stating commercial pilots have been recording sightings, and with their permission, I'll begin to share. Now let's take a listen to what Ryan Graves described commercial pilots seeing off the Pacific and Atlantic of the United States.
I have noticed from commercial pilots that there is absolutely an uptick. Some relatively new information, I guess you could say, is that I am hearing from cases that are more broadly dispersed. So I have been reporting that north of the Atlantic and the north of the Pacific as well, pilots that are doing those transatlantic or trans-Pacific flights are seeing various objects, lights that are coming down, behaving in strange ways, holding in a pattern, look like almost like they're dogfighting in space in some way, kind of back and forth with each other. I've reported that coming out near the Big Dipper in the hearings. And since then, I've heard from many other pilots that have reported similar sightings that match the same description in other parts, such as in north-south flights off the eastern seaboard and elsewhere. So we are starting to get a broader data set now that more pilots both feel comfortable and understand that they're not the only ones with this problem.
So we are starting to see the shift from witness testimony into physical evidence as we progress on this story by way of at least photo and video. And I just briefly want to double click on Lieutenant Graves' description of the UAPs appearing to be dogfighting in high altitude in the atmosphere. And I bring this up because one of the big questions is, why do we always see these things crashing? Now, if we have a situation where there's an adversarial interaction between these objects in the atmosphere, this could be a driving cause behind some of the crashes that we are witnessing. And while I've been primarily focusing on the UFO disclosure movement within the United States, there are other great researchers who are focusing on other regions of the world, like Ronnie Vernet, who is a great UFO researcher out of South America, provides bilingual content. He provided this update that the Brazilian Senate is continuing the work they did from last year's UFO hearing, and he's also providing great coverage of the recent spike in UFO sightings across remote regions of Peru, where now the government has stepped in and provided an official story, although still investigating, that the encounters are actually illegal miners using jetpacks to scare and kill the locals. And if that official explanation felt a little bit too Hollywood for your taste, be sure to check out Steven Spielberg's new 4-part docuseries coming to Netflix on September 27th, titled Encounters. And luckily, this will come out at the same time as the upcoming UFO hearings in the Senate.